Hello from virtual Tiki Oasis land. I am Sheila Starr. Most of you know me from the burlesque stages. Uh, for you Tiki Oasis goers, you've seen me on stage and you've also had me watching your kids. Or my oldest child, then watching your kids when I moved out of the nursery. Um, I am a I identify as a multi-ethnic individual. I am Black, I am Native American, I am many other things, and I am never not any of them. This is the Tiki Oasis monthly series. We are focusing on subjects of history, appropriation versus culture, or history, appropriation versus appreciation of cultures, minority cultures, tiki culture, mid-century Americana, and how all these things blend in together. The goal of this series is to provide a forum for education, knowledge, and conversation. Through this series, we invite marginalized groups to amplify the voices, to share their knowledge and experience, and we invite these advocates and allies to ask questions and to answer questions. And we invite all of you to contribute to the broader discussion of diversity and inclusion and representation and equality in the Tiki community. As we dive into our monthly series, there are many, many topics to unpack, discuss, and understand, and that are part of this current Tiki culture that is ever changing, ever evolving. This month, being Black History Month, our topic, for our topic, we have decided to go with Have We Met Yet? And we will explain a little further on why it is titled this. But being Black History Month, we thought it would be fantastic, those of us on the Diversity and Inclusion Council, which I am also co-chair of, that it would be wonderful to bring on the few Black folks in the Tiki scene. I hope that you enjoy it. We're going to keep it super casual because if you're Black, you know how that goes. So we brought a bunch of Black men and women who come to Tiki events and gather in this culture and share in this fun, festive Islander stuff. Throughout your this conversation, we would love for you to please put your questions in the chat or the question and answer section, depending on if you're joining us from YouTube or on Zoom. Also, this talk today is going to benefit one of our guest organizations called Be For Change, which is a team of BIPOC hospitality professionals dedicated to reshaping the industry to be more inclusive and equitable for everyone. And we will have Samuel will talk about that in a second when I introduce him. But please make we're benefiting it. We're doing these talks by donation. So please make your donations through PayPal at tikioasis@gmail.com. Super easy. You know it. tikioasis@gmail.com. PayPal, we've been using it for years. Now, to introduce our panel. I'm going to start, because I already mentioned him, with Samuel Miller. He is also going to be doing our special cocktail break. Samuel Miller is a bartender, and I'm not going to assume, so I don't know Samuel. Have we met? We haven't met. Yes. And all I know is that he's a bartender and that he's here. And so I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself. But I also, in this introduction, I would like for you to let us know how you identify And how did you find your way into the tiki scene?
Definitely. Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Miller. Some people call me Samson in the bar, but I live in San Francisco, California. Oh, I also identify as he, him. I am a biracial child as well. I am a mix of Black and Caucasian. But I currently live in San Francisco, California, and am the bar manager at the Zombie Village. I moved to San Francisco from Honolulu, Hawaii, actually to open the Zombie Village, and I helped build the bar as well. So some of my blood, sweat, and tears went into that project. Very proud of what we've done. It's a beautiful space, and I hope you can all come visit once we get back to real life in bars again. But yeah, just a few things about myself. I've been in the hospitality industry most of my life. Started in the back of the house when I was about 14 years old, washing dishes and as a prep cook. Kind of climbed the ranks and have now been behind the bar for 11 years. I've traveled around the country. I've lived in the Rocky Mountains, in Utah and Park City, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Denver, Colorado, Honolulu, Hawaii, and now San Francisco. So it's been a great adventure. I've had a lot of fun. I love the bar world, and Tiki has been such an amazing experience. The Zombie Village is my first Tiki bar that I've ever worked in. I had the pleasure of being introduced to Doc Parks and the whole Pagan Idol crew through a cocktail competition that I won. It was the Real McCoy Island Rumble, and the first place prize for that competition was a trip to San Francisco for California Rum Fest. So Real McCoy flew me out. We had an amazing time going to rum events, and I got to do a guest shift at Pagan Idol. Quickly fell in love with the team and the concept and everything. It was really my first real tiki experience. And at the end of my trip, I had so much fun. I thought, I threw my resume, gave my resume to Doc and said, "Hey, if you ever need any help, I would love to be a part of this." So 1 month after that, I ended up leaving Hawaii and moving to San Francisco to build the Zombie Village. And
Fantastic.
just a few things about my organization before change. When COVID first hit, our entire bar group here in San Francisco, Future Bars, we had to close 11 bars. And quite a few of us, especially some POC bartenders in the company, we kind of all got together to try and use our free time for some good, to help people. So a group of 5 of us came together, and we realized our only real asset was time. And so through giving our time, we've been able to set up some really great initiatives. We have food drives going on around the Bay Area, partnering with the SF Marin Food Bank and a food bank in Berkeley as well. So we've been collecting food donations at all of the Cask liquor store locations. That is still going on through the end of the month. We also are hosting a monthly clothing drive, which we just had our third drive yesterday afternoon. We collect clothing, mostly warm clothes and jackets, blankets, rain gear, things like that, and redistribute them to people in need. It's been going really well. We're having a lot of fun. And our really only event we've gotten to do during this time was with a partnership with the Kon-Tiki in Oakland. We did an Instagram takeover that you can go check out on the Kon-Tiki's Instagram page. We named that Conscious Tropical. And the idea was to kind of have some of these same conversations that Tiki Oasis has been having, but we discussed cultural appropriation versus appreciation. We really wanted to contextualize the different cultures throughout the South Pacific and the Caribbean. And kind of give some more context to those peoples and the struggles that they've gone through and still are going through. So yeah, follow us on Instagram. It's at the letter B, the number 4, period, change. Give us a follow. We post daily action items on our Instagram page of ways that people can get involved in social justice movements around the world. Really, we try and help all marginalized people. So if you want some anti-racism education, some extra knowledge, hopefully our Instagram page is a great resource for you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Samuel. You will be seeing more of him, not just throughout the conversation, but like I said, he's going to be doing our cocktail break. Next up, we have burlesque performer and pinup model Jezebel Thunder. I know Jezebel from the burlesque and pinup world myself. She was my first friend in the scene. We've known each other for about 10 years now. And I am really, really, really thrilled to have her. She also is on the Diversity and Inclusion Council for Tiki Oasis with me. So we've been doing quite a lot of fun stuff together. She and I also co-produce, along with a couple of other Black burlesque performers, Simone Del Mar and the phenomenal Egypt Black Nile, the marvelous and melanated show. It's just marvelous and melanated, not cabaret, not burlesque, just marvelous and melanated, because it's everything. So Jezebel, I would love to have you let us know how you identify, and I don't just mean gender, and how did you find your way into the tiki scene?
I identify as Black and pronouns she, her. But I found my way into the tiki scene through a mutual friend of ours, actually, Rex the Impossible. He was like, you have to go to this thing this summer with me. And it's so cool. Like, I've had the tropical drinks. I've seen the pinup aspect of the tiki scene, but I was just like, oh, maybe, I don't know. I didn't really think it was for me or a thing I would enjoy. I wasn't really sure. And then he took me to my first one, which was south of the border, which was like ages ago. And I actually had already been doing burlesque. So I got to perform in a room party for Dr. Shocker, which like the first time I went, I was performing. And yeah, it was just like mind blowing how fun it was. I mean, all of us who've been there just know just how much fun it is and how laid back it is. And I really just enjoyed that everybody was, I mean, I will be honest and say, like, I was just like, am I going to be the only Black person there? Like, that was my first question. I mean, going into anything, that's my first question in my head. And I was like, how's this going to go? Is this going to be weird? Do I look the part? Can I play the part? And then, you know, it wasn't even a factor. I didn't think it was a factor my first time there. Like, people were just so welcoming and just so warm and, you know, just accepting and just ready to have someone new and show them all the things. And so I really appreciated that about everybody. So I've met so many people through there. And ever since that first year I went, I've been volunteering in all the things and performing on the main stage for the burlesque show. And yeah, it's been a fun time, but that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jezebel. Next on our panel in our talk is Pierre Mosley of Tiki Republic. I also don't know him. I know that he is a tiki carver and a promoter of the island lifestyle. Pierre, you there?
People around me really don't see color, because I've actually had some friends that made a statement at a party, Pierre is Black. So that's kind of the people I have around me. How I got into Tiki, my background, I've been in the airline business for over 30 years. And one of the positions I had at the time is a different position I have real stressful. I was in charge of, I was in weight and balance. what we do is we figure out the weight of a plane like an hour, hour and a half in advance. We can see what the flight's booked to. We can estimate how many bags we're going to get, how much fuel it's going to take, how much cargo it's going to get. And my job was to balance the aircraft at a certain angle. And if I saw a mistake, it was my responsibility to solve that mistake, communicate to the maintenance or the ramp or passenger services, whoever it might be, to make sure that plane got out on time. Because if it didn't get out on time, I should have spotted the problem 90 minutes out. And if it took a delay, it was partly my fault. So it was very stressful. And they'd give us like 7 flights every hour. So we had to crank them out. And I got to be like the top person in my community. And it got to be very stressful. So what I started doing my days off is I started dressing in board shorts around my house, T-shirts, flip-flops, mentally getting away. And I happened to have a house at the time in Tempe Lakes, and it's a lake community. And I decided to started looking on eBay, and I found tikis for about a foot and a half. They were about $150 in the coastal states, Florida, California, Hawaii. And it was like another $150 to ship to where I was. I'm like $300 for a foot and a half. And I'm thinking, I've always been extremely artistic, and I got into the structured life because I had kids and a mortgage and everything else. But I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of palm trees in Arizona. So I started carving my own. The first one I wailed on for like 8 hours on my day off with an axe. Woke up the next morning and my arm was sore than you cannot believe. But I was proud of my tiki, even though it looked like crap. But I didn't like it. So on trash day, set it out. It was gone in an hour. That was feedback to me. So I knew I had something, and there's lots of palm trees. I can make a lot of mistakes, and I'm still good. And I always knew I had a talent. So I started studying in my downtime. I'm in the tower now as a ground controller. When the air traffic controllers get their aircrafts on the ground, we take over. So we're operations plus. Tremendous amount of stress. So what I would do every day is I would come home and I transfer my desert landscaping backyard to what is considered a resort. It's I call it the South Pacific. If I have a bad day, I'll walk right from the garage, right in my backyard, and I'm in the South Pacific the way I've done it, using my artistic skills. And what the pool guy started seeing, he was seeing my what I was doing in my backyard, doing a Mr. Miyagi thing. And he saw my tikis, and he approached me and said, people would like what you're doing. I'm like, no, I'm just doing my own thing, my own mental escape. And as the time went by, he saw my skill level increase as far as my tikis. And he kept approaching me and said, people really need to see what you're doing. You have a skill. I'm like, no. I'm just doing my own thing, Mr. Miyagi. After about 3 years, and my skill level kind of went through the roof, and I was surprised. He actually approached me kind of angrily and it's like, no, you're being selfish. People in Phoenix really need to see your skill level. And I have lots of customers that would buy what you have in a second. So I started thinking that. And as I was up in the tower one day in my downtime, I'm sketching mentally, get away, and I'd sketch the logos out, not knowing what I was doing, and throw them in the trash. One day I sketched out a logo I thought was fantastic, and something said, that's it. And I can't tell people what's on my head. I can't express to a graphic artist what it is. So I decided to go to night school, bust my butt. After working 40 hours in the tower, I'd spend 30 hours at night school in Photoshop, and I was loving every minute of it. And I finally, after a couple of months, got my logo down, designed my own website. I'm in control of everything. I wear every hat possible, do the accounting, do the website, do the carving, designing T-shirts, apparel, everything, you name it. I have sunglasses. I have a lot of things. My own tiki mug. That's on the website. And so basically, I was walking in the mall one day, and I saw a magazine, Tiki magazine. I'm like, let me check this out. That's me. Because I thought it was my own person, African-American, Arizona, just doing his own little thing. And discovered there's a whole community out there, Tiki people. And I found out about Tiki Oasis, and working for the airline business, it changes your life. I can fly anywhere, basically domestically, for free. So I saw Tiki Oasis in San Diego, and on my day off, I decided to fly in for a little quick 3-hour trip because I can fly for free. Walked through, checked it out. I'm like, wow, these are my people. And like Jezebel said, nobody's staring at me because of the color of my skin. And I'm like, whoa, I love this. These are definitely my people. That's what we have in common. And I tell all my African-American fans, man, what we all have in common is the question I get is, do you like rum? That was my answer. So I knew I'd found my people. So I came back home after the 3-hour trip, started carving. And after a couple of years, I think about 2 years later, I decided to jump in, make the trek, load up a trailer, and go to Tiki Oasis. And I was surprised by the response I received from my tikis and the tiki mugs and Baby Doe and the entire staff, and I was sold. So I've been going at it full steam ahead ever since then. And since I work in the tower for American Airlines now, I get to see all the numbers, all the passengers connecting from across the country and how many are locals. So I had kind of like insider trading information. And I figure if people were going to Hawaii for 7 to 10 days or whatever, they probably own their own homes, probably had pools, probably would like something in their backyard besides desert landscaping, geckos and things. So I started marketing, hashtagging like crazy, and my business has taken off. And COVID, people are at home now doing searches for tiki artists, Arizona tiki artists. And because my background in web design, I'm getting known like crazy. Before this call, I was checking emails and I'm getting people asking about things and backyard carves and how much on this and that tiki I have posted. My website looks like it's crap bus. Most of my tikis are gone. I cannot keep up. So that's how I got into the tiki business. And I have a skill level and I cannot believe what I'm carving and my imagination takes off. So I'm glad that I'm around and in a community where people appreciate what I do, and people that are in the tiki community, I'm bringing a lot of people in because they're seeing what I do, and word of mouth is spreading in Phoenix area, and I'm getting requests from out of state. My tiki mugs I sold to maybe like 5 different countries. So tiki's been very good to me, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Pierre. Next up is Tracy Blakely. Tracy, I know her from the first time I ever met Tracy was the last Teaserama that happened up in San Francisco, which was also how I found Tiki Oasis. Tracy is a member of the Develettes, and let's see, I just discovered that she does some other really cool stuff. She's a 1960s style go-go dancer and a fashionista. And I saw, which maybe we'll have a private conversation later, that she does some things in the sensual living department. Tracy, how, and if we can maybe wrap these up a little faster, how do you identify and how did you find your way into the tiki scene?
Yeah, I'm short and sweet. So I identify as blackity black. I'm a 4th generation Californian. Both my parents, just Los Angeles folks. And I got my way into tiki, oddly enough, because there is this weird tiki burlesque, whatever divide. So prior to being the Develettes, I was in a burlesque troupe. So I made my way from some Squidlist event for Shag. And I just popped into there. I think I was on a date and like, oh, let's go catch this before we go out to dinner. I'm like, oh, art. Good cocktails. I think I like it. And then, organically I became a Develette, and that comes with Baby Doe. And so you just end up with all these tiki events, which is pretty cool. And my first Tiki Oasis, I think, was in 2007. So yeah, that's kind of where it's at. And just, having a good time, meeting a lot of people, having good drinks and dressing up in fun costumes and just having a really good time. That's kind of it.
Thank you, Tracy. And last on our panel, and definitely not least, is my co-chair, my counterpart on the Tiki Oasis Diversity and Inclusion Council. And she is the former soulful seductress at Bat City Bombshells, Nina Josephine. Nina, how do you identify and how did you find your way into the tiki scene?
Hi, thank you so much, Sheila. You look freaking beautiful, by the way. Love the hair, love the outfit, everything. I love the question, how do you identify? Because I love giving the most non-satisfying answer to that. I'm just Black. So many people ask me that question thinking it's going to be more exotic than that. And I'm sorry to say it's not. I'm actually not sorry to say it, like, whatever. My grandpa did identify as half Native American, but we don't know much about that part of the family. So I tend to just kind of leave it out just because, I'd rather have more information there. Yeah, I'm a burlesque performer. I am a clairvoyant healer in my day job. And I found the Tiki scene through Tiki Oasis. I think my first one was in 2015. Much like so many people here are echoing, I knew it was a thing. I just didn't know that it was something for people that looked like me. So I didn't go right away. But after my first experience of Tiki Oasis, I've been hooked. I have fallen in love. It's so inclusive. I feel so welcome and at home at Tiki Oasis. So yeah, short and sweet. That's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. Okay, so as promised, I'm gonna go back to this. We got a little interest, like, because there's so much, but I want to go back to the very first thing that I said were, our title. And this is kind of for those of us who are on the council on why we made the choice for this to be our title. Have we met yet? Nina, do you mind elaborating on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, totally. So if you're anything like me, which it sounds like we can all kind of relate to this, I have often been one of the few Black folks in different spaces. And when you are one of the few Black folks, you tend to stick out a little bit. So people like recognize you without ever having met you. So I thought it'd be fun to just like title this "Have We Met Yet?" and just like, directly like hit the heart of the situation,
Yes. Does anyone else feel like that? Like they're automatically recognized, and or this happens to me, someone will talk to me thinking that I'm someone else.
Yeah, I've gotten called Tracy before at TV.
That's a compliment for me. Oh my goodness.
I think, oh, for you because you're gorgeous. But yeah,
No. Cute. I love my little Jezebel. I from the burlesque stuff because it wasn't as diverse 20 years ago. Oh my God. Yeah, almost 20 years ago. So I have a really bad habit of attacking all the little brown burlesque girls. They don't even know me, so I'm guilty of it. Like, I've been stalking you. I love you. I'm your mom. So
I accept it and love it.
Fellas, what about you?
I've been raised in almost exclusively, predominantly, I call it melanin challenged spaces my entire life. Mm-hmm. I went to a private school for the first couple of years, for first and second grade in Indianapolis, scary stuff. I went to high school in Illinois in the same neighborhood that John Hughes filmed all of his movies. So I was Le Token and really used to it. And I always joke about being in the Develettes that I'm the only Black presenting Develette. There's more than one of us. So it's always a good time, just, like you think I'm the token, but I'm not. But, you navigate those spaces.
Right. I definitely feel that on the not presenting. People don't know what the hell I am.
Tracy, your comment, melanin challenged spaces.
Melanin challenged
resonates with me. I grew up in Utah for the most part, and then moved to Wyoming after that.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was a good time, but it had its challenges. And, for a very long time, it was a running joke with guests, with staff, that Sam's the only Black bartender in Utah. And it wasn't until later in my life that I really analyzed that and realized how problematic it was. And even just in Wyoming being called Black Sam, and it's weird that I was conditioned to think that was okay for most of my life. And it wasn't until, I started reading more and opening my mind that I was like, oh, this is really problematic.
Problematic. We did a lot of back and forth traveling because I grew up all over the country, and we made friends obviously along the way in every place we lived, but Wyoming in particular, it always stands out to me that I was a little kid and we were visiting our friends, dear friends, who had moved from California to Wyoming. And we had to be a good 5 to 10 miles outside of their trailer. We stopped for gas. They knew us. They had warned the townspeople that we were coming so they wouldn't bother us. I mean, that's
real.
Crazy. Like, they're going to be in a Cadillac. They're going to have, their 2 little girls and Miss Flo and Mr. John. And, they're our friends. They're coming to see us. 10 miles away. So yeah, Wyoming. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's a lot for me to hear. Like warning you ahead. Okay, so also I the other thing that I want to hear, like echo, I like being the only Black person in the scene, or one of the very, very few. I mean, we have one person who goes to Tiki Oasis that I was desperately trying to find to get on this panel, because he's the only, other than my very first Tiki Oasis, where my then boyfriend was with me, he's the only out there partying guy that I've seen that was Black. Any others were vending. Pierre would be vending, but like just there. And I was trying so hard to find him. But that whole notion of like, I'm like, where is he? And none of us have really spoken to him. How is that? Like, do you find sometimes it's just more like a nod, like you might not ever speak, but there's a little nod?
Yeah, because the room parties are crowded. You can't get to people. You try, and then somebody grabs you to do something. So.
So I didn't know, in Utah and Wyoming, if you see another Black person, it is amazing, right? It's a moment. And you see each other from across, it doesn't matter how far away they are. There's always I see you. But then moving to California, that's not a thing. In Oakland, everyone's Black. You don't say hello to every Black person you see. And so I'm like, oh, you don't need to nod at everyone.
I made the open on purpose so I could stop the nod.
What's so funny is I am actually from the South. Like, I'm from Texas, and in Texas, in the neighborhood I grew up in, which was predominantly Black, like we nod at every Black person you see. It's like a thing, So like moving to New York, where I'm at now, like I don't really do that. Like I think it's also just something that's very like characteristic of like the South. So I don't do that here, but it's funny you say that, because I had for a long time gotten used to just like quietly acknowledging other Black people in the room, like it's always like a breath of fresh air. I'm like, oh, thank God, like, oh, thank you, so happy you're here, I'm here too, we're doing things.
Yeah. Okay, I would love to hear why you think we don't see very many of us in this scene. We're changing, like the world is blending more, but why do you think we don't see very many Black folks in this scene? And also, if there's anything that you think would bring the folks in.
I think awareness.
Awareness?
I'm in Arizona, and I think everything I see is hip hop, but I kind of gravitate my own way. And when I see African Americans, basically only at the airport, because I live in Arizona. I'm in Mesa. I'm basically the only Black that I see, but because of the way I grew up and the way I think, I don't see myself as the only person. But when I do see a Black person at the airport, I always do the eye contact or the head nod or something like that, just out of respect. Yes, the first time I went down south was New Orleans. I literally stepped out of the taxi and my mouth fell open. Black people everywhere? Oh my God. I literally stood there for seconds. Because I've grown up being the only black kid in my classes all the way up, and I'm the only black person in the tower. So, but people say once they hear me speak, not with Ebonics, they say, "Oh yeah, he's okay." But I think it's mostly because people don't know that the Tiki community exists, and I try to communicate with my coworkers that, hey man, you guys want to get in the Tiki community. It is a great community. They do not see the color of your skin. It's just people have a common wanting to party, get together, good vibe. So.
Yeah, I feel like, and I feel like a couple of us said this already. I know Jezebel definitely said that, but like, I knew Tiki Oasis was a thing for years before I decided to go. And the first thought in my head was, would I be comfortable there? You know, and that, I feel like for me as a Black woman, especially, that's always like kind of rolling around in my mind. Like, I'm happy to go explore, do whatever, meet whoever, have a good time, but am I going to be comfortable there? Who am I going to meet? Am I going to have to like deal with someone who has maybe never spoken to a Black person and thinks that a Black person looks one way, speaks one way, presents one way? It's a real thing. So yeah, that was like the hesitation for me. And to answer your question, which is beautiful, like how can we change it or like make it known that more Black folks and people of all like genders, colors, like races, whatever, are welcome into like this space in particular. What we're doing right here right now is like a perfect example of something that is helpful, like just making it known that we're here, we're not invisible, like we are real people, and we're just like everybody else, like like we're pleasantly melanated, kind of like echoing a little bit off of what Tracy said about like melanated peoples. Yeah, like just doing stuff like this, like I'm never expecting perfection, right? I just expect people to try. And I feel like as long as that's the case, I'm happy to involve myself and like have conversations.
I ditto what Nina said and what other people said. Yeah, I feel like we all on this panel can really resonate with the idea that we've been like the token person. That's my whole life experience, school, events, everything. But there's always still that question of like, yeah, is it going to be an issue? Is it a thing I can do? Are people going to look at me weird? Are people going to ask me a bunch of uncomfortable questions? Like, that's always the thought process going in there. But yeah, Tiki Oasis, it just, I don't know, it just like, it felt comfortable. Everyone was really like chill. And so I think like bringing awareness, like Pierre said, to the fact that there are more people there than just, non-Black people. To be honest, I was just like, I think this is mostly a white people thing, maybe. Like that was in my head. I was like, can I go to this? And then, obviously it's not. But I think that, being a part of the pinup safari and stuff like that, I think over the years at Tiki Oasis, Tikio has really tried to present more faces of color, like different people, and showcasing that there are different people that come here and do this and it's a good time. And so I think just having that visualization of representation is like really important on flyers, bands, burlesque shows, pinup things, bartenders, vendors, like just showcasing that more. It's always helpful. I'm not sure the video is not showing up, by the way. I don't know what's happening, but
I think representation is huge. I feel like Black people tend to not want to enter spaces that they think are predominantly white. And so just to have faces out there and, in leadership positions, I love that Nina and Sheila, you're both putting this amazing council together, and like having these conversations is such a huge step. I went to my first Tiki Oasis in 2019, and basically worked the whole time, room parties every night. It was a wild experience, but I will say I was very pleasantly surprised. I didn't really know what to expect, and everyone was so amazing. And I loved, like, I got to hang with like the Vatos Hutiki, and I got to meet
Yep.
Black burlesque dancers, and I'm just like, oh, this is different than what I was expecting it to be in a great way.
I'm so sad, Samuel. I actually missed 2019's Tiki. So I missed you.
Oh yeah, we threw a hell of a room party.
Darn it. With that, we are going to cut to our cocktail break. Samuel,
Wonderful.
take it away.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to make this cocktail for you. I call it the Samson Swizzle. This was my Bacardi Legacy cocktail competition submission in 2019, and it made it to the top 16 in the country. So I was pretty proud of that. The talent pool was incredible in that competition, and to even make it to a semifinal stage, I was so excited. So this is kind of a play on the Queen's Park Swizzle, which is an amazing classic that originated in Trinidad at the Queen's Park Hotel. And it kind of takes Queen's Park Swizzle and Mojito and combines them into a beautiful, tropical, and herbaceous swizzle. I'm just going to drop my camera down a little so you can see my workstation. All right. So the great thing about swizzles is you can build them in the glass. So you don't need a shaker or anything like that. So for this, we're going to use a Collins. You can use a Mai Tai if it's all you have, but the drink really looks beautiful because it's layered in a taller Collins. For this, I use a blend of rums. Today, I'm going to be using Real McCoy 3-year. Sorry, I got a little glare going on. Real McCoy 3-year. I love to blend rums. It kind of brings out the best qualities of what you're blending. Jamaica and Barbados happen to be my personal 2 favorite rum producing nations. I love what their flavor profiles do together as well. So this Real McCoy 3 is aged 3 years and then charcoal filtered. And so it still has some great spice notes and some of those wood components that you get from aging, but it's clean, it's drinkable. It's one of my favorite rums. It's very versatile. And then I'm also using Appleton 8, so a little aged Jamaican. Love Jamaican rum. That pot's still funk. I love using Jamaican rum in pretty much all of my tiki cocktails. And Jamaica and Barbados really play well together. They complement the flavor profiles very well. So I made a syrup blend. You can really use any flavor profile you would like in this drink. This syrup is a passion fruit, vanilla, and cinnamon. So I just used a passion fruit puree, reduced that down with a little bit of sugar, a little bit of vanilla bean pod, and cinnamon sticks. And it gives you just a beautiful tart fruit, as well as some of those baking spices that blend with the age from the wood in the rums. So I'm using a 1/2 ounce of my syrup. That was an ounce of each of the Real McCoy and the Appleton. So 2 ounces of rum, about a 1/2 ounce of syrup. It is a richer style, simple. So if you're going a 1-to-1, you might want to up that to 3/4 to an ounce. And then fresh squeezed lime juice. I'm going to use 3/4 of an ounce fresh squeezed lime. And fresh mint, about 8 to 12 fresh mint leaves. And this is the fun part. So if you have a swizzle stick at home, that is a great tool. This is actually a metal swizzle that I got on Cocktail Kingdom. But if you don't have a swizzle, which is totally fine, you can use a lot of different tools. A small whisk is a great thing to swizzle and muddle with. A bar spoon, even the back end of a cooking spoon, really whatever you got. But what you're going to want to do is just kind of press that mint into the bottom of your glass and express those mint oils into that liquid. Some people, you also heard this called muddle. If you're swizzling, you can kind of muddle and swizzle your ingredients at the same time. This is a crushed ice cocktail. So top this off with just a little bit of crushed ice to get some dilution going. And we're just gonna give it a nice swizzle. Start that dilution process. And just back and forth in the palms of your hands with whatever device you're using for that swizzle. So the part I love about this drink visually is the layers of color. You have this beautiful mint on the bottom of the glass, nice green, then working into your beautiful kind of amber colored rum cocktail. And then the finishing touch for this is a float of Angostura bitters, which was also, which is still made in Trinidad, where this cocktail was created. So we're just going to give it a very healthy float. The bitters is a main component of the flavor in this cocktail. So we're gonna do, 10 to 15 dashes. And you're left with a beautiful coloration from mint to cocktail to bitter. And then just a nice mint bouquet as your garnish. If you've ever been to Zombie Village, you know we love our mint. We treat it well and express that mint over the edge of your glass. After you get a bouquet, I like to give it a nice twirl. And that is the Samson Swizzle.
Delicious. All that mint and all that rum. I happen to be a huge mojito fan,
Yes.
and I know that that's not a mojito, but that goes in that direction. And I'm mad that I'm here and you're there.
You're gonna have to come to Zombie Village and let me make cocktails.
Heck yeah, most definitely. Thank you so much, Samuel. And I think that we have a question for you specifically about your before change. The question is from Michael. He wants to know, does your group before change discuss or examine the topic of appropriation of Pacific cultures in popular tiki?
Definitely. So our organization has kind of had to pivot a few times just with COVID and trying to remain as safe as possible. When we started this group, it was, we were marching, we were protesting pretty much every week in the streets, and our whole focus was Black Lives Matter. We were like, we need more Black people in the hospitality industry. We need to reshape training practices, and none of that has changed or gone away. But we've kind of realized that everyone is struggling right now, and we need to kind of diversify. So our first event we did with Tiki, Conscious Tropical. was our first attempt into diving into Tiki. I felt like I kind of had a responsibility as a Black man in a space. I obviously see things that are inappropriate or hear things that people say that are inappropriate. And so I felt like I need to at least start having conversations to expand my own knowledge. And so in our Conscious Tropical series, I interviewed Mariah Kunkel, who I know has also been a part of the Tiki Oasis program. She's amazing, and I got to talk to her about the Pacifica Project and what they're doing. Also Sam Jimenez, her business partner. And then I also interviewed Noah Laporga from Skull and Crown, who is a native Hawaiian tiki bar owner. So I was really trying to like create this like scope of, obviously people from Pacific Islands are not a monolith and everyone kind of has their own opinion. And so I'm trying to learn myself and share that knowledge. So I think we did a pretty good job in Conscious Tropical. It's definitely the first of hopefully many conversations like that. We really, it was awesome. The Kontiki hit us up and said, we love your Instagram page. We love what you're doing. Can you come do it on our page? And so we kind of on the fly started creating content, making slides, doing all sorts of research about different Pacific Island communities. And it was a very eye-opening experience. We just scratched the surface, but hopefully we will continue having these conversations.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sam. No, go back. There was a question. There is another question for all of us. This is from Bill. He says, thank you all for taking the time to chat and share your experiences. You are very welcome. He said, part of the positive experiences you've expressed have been about fitting in and being accepted into the Tiki scene immediately without much concern. On the other side of things, are there issues with people being too colorblind or not recognizing your full identity, especially in a subculture that deals with concepts of how mostly by white Europeans have defined exotic cultures and destinations and various levels of appropriation? That is a lot. I love that question. Thank you. Oh my goodness, I could speak on this. But I'm just moderating.
I think
we're all like, we want to, like, I love how we're all like, yes.
Like this whole conversation, I've been trying to think about how to say it. I don't know, so I'm sure someone else has better words, but because we're all so used to being quote unquote the token person at all the things, it's normal. It's normalized that you go into an event. It's like kind of normalized and kind of not to go into an event and have people just either pinpoint it right away or not recognize it. And so I spent my whole life just being like, I hope they don't look at me as the Black person. Like, I hope this is not the thing. I hope this is not it. I hope it's not it. And then as I've gotten older, I've been like, no, recognize that I am the Black person here and notice that there needs to be more of people who look like me. Like, it's been a growth for me this whole, like for years, like, because I've just been it's been so normalized to just like sit in the corner, be that Black person, just be like, don't look at me, don't pinpoint it, you know? But yeah, I want people to like say, not be rude about it, obviously, but just, you know, say something and recognize it, you know? I'm sure someone can elaborate differently and better than I can.
Yeah, I probably can't do much of a better job, but there's a fine line. Some people can say I don't see color, and I know they absolutely do not mean that, and other people say it and it is problematic. You know, my best friend who I've known since I was 13, you know, she said, oh no, I don't see color. And I know, like, you know what, I told her, I said, I know what you mean by that, but you can't go around saying that because I need you to see color and I need you to know why you need to see color. So yeah, just pass it on.
That, yes.
I think that in order to properly recognize the trials and tribulations that Black people have gone through, you have to see color. You you can't forget about everything and everything that's still happening, and people, our prison system, our policing system, it's broken and it directly affects Black people. So if we want to change things, like, we have to see that, and we have to see those differences. And I think, like, the idea of colorblindness, it sounds great, but I think that's, like, in the future, once we come to terms with what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with what everyone has said. So when I hear someone say, like, I don't see color, it's like two different things pop in my head. I'm like, either you don't know very many Black people, and like you just aren't, you just have no knowledge, no experience of that side of life. But then I also think, okay, like, you don't see color, like, I understand, like, you're trying to be polite, you're trying to be understanding and try to, like, leave race out of the equation, but we live in a country where race has always been part of the equation.
True.
It's always been part of it. So for you to, like, so selectively and conveniently leave that out, there shows your privilege, right? Like, how convenient for you, how amazing for you that you don't have to deal with it. Like, I think that's great. You don't have to deal with it. At the same time, if you are to be a conscious human being and someone who really stands for all people and humanity as a whole, it's kind of your job to acknowledge when there are shortcomings in the way that the fabric of our society works, right? Like, otherwise, like your morals are called into question. Your whole moral, like, understanding is called into question.
Yep.
Sorry, but not sorry.
Pierre.
I find that a lot of people are uneducated because of the education system that I went through in Arizona. I'm sure it's the rest of this country. Like they said, there's two cultures in this country, one Black and one white. And I'm finding out a lot of people, they don't see it. So because they don't see it, they don't believe it happens, as I was told directly. They don't believe discrimination ever happens because they've never seen it. And someone corrected them in a room that I was in, and this person is now my management. And a lot of my managers have discriminated against me going up that ladder. Like, a lot of my coworkers had their initial drug tests 30 years ago. I've had almost 20, and then mine were all random. Things like that they never see, but I have to deal with. And I'm at a level now where I'll speak up, but I don't care what their title is. It's about respect. So I actually wrote a piece when this was all going down a couple months ago on social injustice, and put out there a lot of experiences I've had to deal with growing up. Because I've always been good with money, but because of the color of my skin, I had to deal with depression. Like, I got pulled over 2 blocks from my house. I had a nice muscle car when I was 16 because I always had money. Because I've always had to work since I was 12. Police officer asked me what I was doing in the neighborhood 2 blocks from my house. I put things out there like that they never see, never deal with, will never have to deal with. Riding a bike home from Arizona State University, instead of being a student, I was someone stealing bikes on the campus, and I was held out there 20 minutes and then had to go take the day off without pay to go to court to clear up 5 things like that and put on there. If anybody wants to call me out, I still have the ticket. I got this citation for not getting off my bike and crossing the street in a residential neighborhood. So it's things that they never see, and it's history. And then I follow social media. Ben & Jerry's Instagram has opened my eyes tremendously about history books of what have been wiped out, things that have been done to African Americans in this country, like Oklahoma in 1921, and I found out this past week about Arkansas in 1919. And that just has me angry when I work with people who keep saying blacks are lazy. And like, when we do try to rise up, you guys need to educate yourselves about what's going on that I'm aware of that they're not aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I because you touched on something that's, kind of not Tiki related, but still, I do want to say, as, for me, just because I straddle a line and I realize that I am so fair and I am so like I'm so mixed up that I literally see I have track records of how I was treated in all the situations based on what I was seen as. Sometimes people see the Black in me, sometimes they don't. And that happens for me on, with Black folks, other Black folks, and with white folks. Like, and so I know, like, when people try to say, oh, I don't see color, and I'm like, okay, sure. Sure. And then
why'd you have to say that?
Like, oh, you're Black? And it gets, for me, because I am constantly like verbally trying to push and make a difference, for me, because I know that I have that privilege of being able to be a fucking shapeshifter and slide in. I like to slide in and let people say all sorts of stuff and then be like, bam, 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 bam. That's how I do things. Yeah. We have another question. How might Tiki events and other gatherings like Viva Las Vegas Rockabilly Weekend cultivate a true culture of inclusion and diversity? I personally have one request.
Say it.
Music. Get some other musicians in there. We are dealing with a time period, because this is, that retro mid-century thing. We are dealing with a time period where the music was stolen from us, oftentimes. So when I'm hearing all of the white versions of songs, and every single band is mostly like white, I cannot tell you that I've seen at Viva Las Vegas, the doo-wop bands and the R&B, they like tend to go during the day when no one's partying. Like I've never been able to catch one. And I've worked Viva Las Vegas for a very long time. Tiki Oasis, I haven't seen yet a single band yet. Like I tend to work because I don't care about the music during the day. So I'll work the events during the day because I don't care anything about the music and the bands.
At the first Arizona Tiki Oasis, I was listening to music all day. I was a vendor out there, and I heard the 50s and then related, but it was not a lot of music I related to. So one of the questions Baby Doe and her crew asked for, as far as feedback, I put down, I want to hear things like I grew up with, like James Brown and Otis Redding and things like that, because that'll resonate with the rest of them as well. But they didn't see that it was geared towards a certain group.
So I think in Tiki, it's kind of a touchy subject, right? The music, especially at least in our Tiki bar, the majority of our clientele that are there, that are Tiki enthusiasts, that are a part of this community, they have a playlist of acceptable music of like what is Tiki and what is not Tiki. And it kind of blew my mind to learn that people actively are against playing reggae music in a Tiki bar. And it kind of just blew my mind. I'm like, we have 70 Jamaican rums on the wall and, naming things Jamaican words, but we can't play reggae? Like, it just kind of blew my mind that it's like, that's unacceptable. When, like, why? Who makes the rules of that's not Tiki? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. I was a mid-century 50s type enthusiast quite a long time ago, and I just kind of phased out of it because it just stopped resonating, and I felt like it was a lot of, like, you're not here just for the clothes and the music, are you? You're here you want a recreation of Pleasantville, and I just doesn't sit right with me. But, the music thing, I mean, is it you don't want reggae because you think it might bring in, like the parrot heads you know, if you like the Jimmy Buffett crowd, you kind of talks by the water that way. But what does that mean? It's really scary. You know, I remember like the Hooly Billy year was really trying for me because I knew what was going to happen, and it did. You know, somebody unfurled a Confederate flag on their balcony.
Yep.
Like, I knew that was going to happen when this theme got announced, and it happened. I'm like, wow. You give an inch, they take a mile. So, you know, it's there. Be really careful with that stuff and like really know the origins. Like Black people invented rock and roll. Do you get that?
Yeah.
Do you get that?
Yeah.
You know, I love that what everyone has said so far. And that's interesting what you say, Tracy, because so much, you know, we are here with the Tiki community, rockabilly. It is like a recreation of Pleasantville, right? Like the 50s, 60s. And if you're Black or a minority at all, we know what those days were like. Yeah. And they weren't very friendly to people that looked like us. I lived in a household with a grandmother and a mom who remembers segregation and all of that, and basically like had PTSD over it, you know?
Absolutely.
I grew up in that household. And so I think something I feel like, especially based off of what you said, Tracy, the Tiki community, even the rockabilly community could do if they are truly interested in inclusion is to be really honest about like what those days were like, and really focused on constantly like making a statement that even though the aesthetics are fun and cool and whatever, like absolutely the culture, the part of the culture that is very exclusionary is absolutely not tolerated. So like making a statement, being very public about that, and finding different ways, creative ways to like make that statement. So it's not always so like harsh and cold and blah, we're gonna like, you know, like totally be a downer, but both like taking, like being very serious about it, but also finding like creative ways to kind of almost like just put it back in your face over and over again. We don't accept, you know, like the exclusionary aspect of the day and age that we are kind of celebrating, glorifying. Yeah.
Sorry, one last thing about that, about cultivating diversity in your events. I think our group, kind of our main goal is to find a way to transform companies' hierarchies. And that's like with any program, right? So I think giving, hopefully, people of color, hopefully Black women, hopefully the underrepresented categories a seat at the table for decision-making times. Like if you're planning an entire event and you don't have one Black person in the room to talk with about that, like you're doing something wrong, and you should bring them into the conversation.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. It's just a filter that you need.
Yeah, exactly.
And be willing to listen to them, because there are lots of times that I'm in these spaces and I'm like, even not even just on like stuff that's bad, but on stuff that's good and okay, like because we have our own kind of humor of what we think is cool. You know, like we're okay with, we can oftentimes be okay with certain touching on things that can feel like it's going to be sensitive, but we know that we're doing it in fun, and we're the ones that know what that nuance is.
Mm-hmm.
We have one more question before I unfortunately close out, because I think that we could probably sit here for another 3 hours. But the day is beautiful and we should get out in the sunshine.
Yeah.
No, we don't do sun. That's why I'm like 90 and you don't know it.
All right. Now you sound like my grandmother. When I hit 35, I started wearing hats, and I'm like, yes, okay, Grammy.
Now, my grandmother's almost 100. She swims in her pool every day, and she looks like she's maybe 60. Maybe.
Wow.
Yes. because, you know, Black don't
Hat,
Right.
sleeves.
So we have, okay, well, 2 more questions. Well, I'm gonna just go a little bit because we have someone who asked one about music. I think it was Bill. Let me scroll up. Give me just a sec. Technology and talking at the same time. Michael, do you think Michael asked, do you think exotica music could be considered insensitive or possibly racist?
But I love Les Baxter.
Right. I mean, then we've got this, like, because there's also that big question going on right now of if we should be using tiki as this title to things that we're already familiar with. And like we're already familiar with it. We already know that if we want to listen to this, then we go to that. We go to exotica music. And is it so bad? Is there a way for us to acknowledge that it's maybe problematic, but also still love it?
It's like the Woody Allen challenge.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's the thing, right? You have to ask yourself, like, are you going to stop supporting things that the person that created it is problematic, even if their work or art isn't explicitly? Because if that's the case, like, we got to cancel a lot of people.
Or cancel a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff is gone, right? So I think every person kind of has to find that line within themselves of like, are you still going to listen to Michael Jackson? Do you still listen to R. Kelly? Like, you know, it's like these questions we have to ask ourselves, like, where is the line for us? And like, many of those artists probably were very racist, but their music isn't explicitly racist. And a lot of the music is beautiful. So I think it's kind of like, do a little digging and, you know, if there is a Les Baxter or something, and like, learn about him, read about him, find out some details.
Yeah, who was in his backing band? Who was, you don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I am very much the type of person where I'm like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, at least like not in every single instance. So I'm totally that person. Like, I'll be dancing to Michael Jackson and I'll look over at my friend. I'm like, yeah, he probably raped a bunch of boys. But like, I'm gonna like still enjoy it like as much as I can while still consciously being aware of like what's going on there. I feel like I can do both, you know, but like I understand like that's also like where I'm at in my evolution as a human. It could be different for a lot of different people, you know, and that's cool.
Right.
That's totally fine. I get it.
Some people maybe need to go cold turkey.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
some people are like, I'm just gonna just take a little bit of it here, nitpick. And then, okay, one more question. Do you connect with other Black folks before or during the event? Do you attend Black folks meetup at Tiki Oasis? I wasn't even aware that there was one.
Yeah, I didn't know there was one.
I didn't know you.
We should make one. If there isn't, we should make it a thing.
Yeah.
I've literally been saying this, like, I want to have a room party that's kind of like based off of this, basically. Like, have we met? And like, you know, have all of us there, and like our allies, you know, and you know, people who are just down to clown.
Hey, I'll bartend.
I think at like Viva Las Vegas and Burlesque Hall of Fame, they have a POC meetup for sure.
Which I always miss because I'm sleeping.
I was gonna say I usually miss it because I'm usually doing the
I'm like passed out or something.
Yeah.
Working. I'm always working. I'm always working until everything shuts down and it's party time, and then I party hard at the events. But that's where you can find me during the day. I'm like behind something, running around, passing things, and then I party till the sun comes up. Yes, we should definitely. Maybe can we call the room party? Have we met yet?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Call it?
Yeah. Little meet and greet.
Yeah.
We'll meet and greet.
Mhm.
We'll meet and greet.
All right, fantastic. Thank you all for being here. This was fun. I could have so much more fun with you. And for everyone joining and your wonderful questions, I really, really, really appreciate that. I want to remind you that today's event is benefiting B for Change. You can find it at Instagram at the letter B, the number 4.change. And you can donate to the Tiki Oasis PayPal at tikioasis@gmail.com, and those proceeds will go directly to them. I'm so like, yes, this went over quite well. I love it. It was a pleasure to meet those of you that I haven't met. Now we've met. And thank you so much. And Samuel, we're gonna have to get that drink in me somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. I was just enjoying it. I don't even really drink tiki drinks anymore. So I was like, oh, that's good. But thank you so much, everyone. This was amazing. I'm so happy to be a part of this group and meet all of you. I hope that we can do something again, whether it be an extension of this conversation or a different one. But this was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we hope that you will join us next month on the second Sunday of the month at 11 a.m. We moved this one. This usually happens on the second Sunday. We moved this one because last Sunday was Valentine's Day. And we definitely didn't want to try and compete with that in the pandemic because, like, why? But normally this happens on the second Sunday. So at 11 a.m. Pacific time, as we celebrate Women's History Month with the author of Tiki Modern Tropical Cocktails, Shannon Mossifer. And
Lost audio.
Oh no.
oh no, what
There you
happened?
Oh, we hear you now.
Did you lose all of that? What happened?
A little
did you lose?
bit.
We
Yeah.
heard Shannon Mustafer, and that's it.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I didn't touch anything, I promise. So Shannon Mustafer and a group of special guests that she has assembled to talk about women who are inspiring and defining Tiki in the past and the present. Also, if you are interested in joining the Tiki Oasis Diversity and Inclusion Council, or have an idea for a future topic in our series, please email us at info@tikioasis.com. Until next time, I'm Sheila Starr. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.